Hello YouTube, my name is Paul, hope you're all keeping well. I'm back today with part 2 of my Amiga collection videos, and today I'll be talking about my Amiga 1200, obviously as you can see that right in front of you, my US Gold and my Virgin Games collections. So yeah, my first Amiga 1200 I bought back in 1993, I think it was, around August time. It's the first machine I ever expanded. So over the years I bought myself a hard drive for it, I think it was 200 megabyte. Worked out about £1.10, £1.20 per megabyte, so it's bloody expensive. An accelerator card, I think it was a Great Valley product, or GVP. 1230 or something like that. 68030 processor, and I think I had about 4 meg of RAM on board as well. I also bought myself a monitor for those lovely crystal clear pixels. But yeah, it did make a massive difference having a monitor actually, especially when you sort of use the workbench environment. So having a hard drive was awesome because games like Monkey Island 2, Beneath a Steel Sky, Rise of the Robots, for example, had more than 10 discs. So no more disc swapping for me. It was absolutely blissful. The amount of time you saved was phenomenal actually. The accelerator card was ideal for games like The Settlers, which was quite a processor-hungry game, especially when you use the bigger maps. Games like Microprose Grand Prix was absolutely phenomenal once it was speeded up. Same with Frontier Elite 2. Also games like UFO Enemy Unknown, Theme Park, Alien Breed 3D 1 and 2, Gloom. The list is quite endless really. All those games took advantage of the accelerator card. One of the main reasons I bought it though was for games like TFX, which never kind of came out, did it? It came out about 95% complete some years later in CU Amiga magazine. But I also looked forward to games like the Party Squad, which I think got a later release again. There was loads of games actually earmarked for the Amiga which never came out. I can't really remember most of them off the top of my head, but yeah, I kind of like tried to future-proof myself really. I was quite disappointed when these games never actually materialised. I think even Inferno was supposed to come out as well, which was another DID developed game. Made it on the PC, but that was about it really. But yeah, the accelerator board made a huge difference, so did the hard drive, and the monitor was a nice to have. But after spending all that money on that stuff, I might as well just gone out and bought myself a PC, to be honest. Because by 1995 I got myself a PlayStation, and my Amiga 1200 was unfortunately obsolete. There was one dedicated game I had which needed to have more memory. I needed to have some kind of accelerator board, was SimCity 2000, which was an absolute pig to play because it was slow as hell even with the accelerator. But yeah, so again it's got the 020 processor in it. This one itself I've tried to emulate or tried to get it similar to what I had. I've got a Blizzard, I think 1230 inside this one. I've got 16 meg of RAM. I've got a compact flash card instead of a hard drive. I did have WHD load in it, but I've kind of like stripped it back to what an Amiga 1200 is supposed to be like, I guess, with the extra features on board. But yeah, there she is. Lovely machine, in great cosmetic condition. One of the nicest Amiga machines to look at, to be honest. I'd love to have an Amiga 4000, but they cost so much bloody money, don't they? But yeah, that's about it. I think the pack I got was about 300 quid. It only literally just came with workbench, the mouse, obviously the power pack and all, but there's nothing fancy with it. There's no software pack or anything like that. But yeah, absolutely fantastic machine, and I'm absolutely glad to have one back in the collection. So we've had the glitz and the glamour of Psygnosis. Now it's the turn of US Gold and Virgin Games. But don't be mistaken, there's some fantastic titles within this lot. US Gold did a lot of work with other developers like Delphine Software, Lucasfilm Games. He also did a lot of conversions for Capcom and Sega. So yeah, there's some right duffers in here, but there's also some fantastic titles to look at. And also Virgin. So Virgin did a lot of really good games as well. So without further ado, let's crack on. So first up is one of those US Gold Capcom conversions, which is Final Fight. In itself, not a bad conversion, not a bad game actually. Yeah, not nowhere near as good as the Mega CD version, but to be honest with you, it's not bad. Not a bad attempt. probably thinking, what the hell is he doing with that? But these games were quite far and few between in the early 90s. These kind of multi-sport events. I used to really enjoy them back in the Spectrum days. Not a bad game actually. Quite quick to complete, but it was decent fun. I used to love my football management games back in the past as well. So The Manager, not a bad game. I used to play this a hell of a lot with my brothers. Good fun. No Championship Manager beater though, but it was decent enough. Now, quite a peculiar puzzler this one, Night Shift. I played it a couple of times, tried to get into it, but it's quite difficult. US Gold had the rights for Outrun in the UK, and then produced some games like this, which was supposed to be one of its sequels, Outrun Europa. So literally, you are literally driving through Europe on a motorcycle, a car, or a speedboat. It's not bad. Not bad at all, really. Street Fighter 2. I think it was one of the first games I went out and bought in 1992 for my Amiga. I remember buying this in Zool. Not a bad conversion, but nothing like the Super Nintendo version. US Gold published a lot of Delphine games as well, and they did some really good point-and-click adventures. This being one of them, which is Cruise for a Corpse. Got an absolutely fantastic intro sequence in it. And I've never really played the game too much, to be honest. But this was the first point-and-click adventure I'd ever played, which is Operation Stealth. Again, another Delphine point-and-click adventure. It's very, very good until you get to the maze sections, which ruin the game completely. It might be the reason why it put me off Cruise for a Corpse. You might be getting along nicely in the game, all of a sudden they throw some crap at you. Zack McCracken and the Alien Mindbenders. Took me a while to source this one. It's in decent condition. Very hard to find it in good condition because the box is so flimsy, it's unbelievable. You might be lucky enough to get a hints book inside it as well, but as you can see, it is quite flimsy. I think I ironed this one to get it looking half decent. I can fetch a bit of money, that one's probably between about 70 and maybe 110 quid. Depends how lucky you are, I suppose. Another flimsy box though, but an amazing game is Flashback. Another one of those Delphine games. I played this one till I beat it. Absolutely enjoyed it on the Amiga. I think it's a sequel to Another World. But yeah, an absolutely brilliant game. But to find it in nice condition though is quite a challenge. Another Capcom conversion was Last Duel. Never really played this, to be honest. Sort of one of the earlier Capcom conversions in these plastic cases, which are quite nice. I don't think Capcom released Vigilante though. Quite a poor conversion of what is a really good arcade game. I thought the arcade game was very good anyway, but the Amiga version's slow and bloody frustrating as hell. Now this one was a bit of a find really. I was really lucky to find this. This was buried in a bundle of games on eBay about 2 years ago. I think this guy had 12 pictures on eBay, which is the maximum you can have. It was on the very last picture and the bottom left hand corner of the picture, pretty much out of view. But I saw it. Great Gianna Sisters. So that bundle came with some amazing games in it, and I was so happy to get this. I think the whole lot cost me 90 quid. It's released under the Go label, which is part of US Gold. Bionic Commando, it's not a bad conversion. This one will get Tooty going. He's the meanest son of a snake you've ever seen. He's a human killing machine. So this was the unofficial sequel to Street Fighter. Again, developed by Tiertex. Say no more. I first ever played this one on the Atari Lynx, which is California Games. I've tried to give this a go, but I didn't find it much fun, to be honest. This one a bad conversion, Road Blasters. I first had this on the Sinclair Spectrum. The Amiga version's not bad at all. However, this is a grim conversion. I'm not quite sure what it would do with the intro sequence of this, but what a racket. Oh my god. A few of those lovely LucasArts games, or Lucasfilm games as they were known back then. First one is Loom. Never really got into this, to be honest. Maniac Mansion is another one. So obviously Lucasfilm did a lot of arcade adventures, point and click adventures back in the day. Including the first game I ever played on the Amiga, which was The Secret of Monkey Island. And to this day, probably still one of my favourite games of all time. Absolutely fantastic. Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. Another point and click adventure. Another very good game indeed. Well, probably the cream of the crop is Monkey Island 2, LeChuck's Revenge. Probably the best point and click adventure on the Amiga. Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, but this one is the action game. I don't think I've ever played it, to be honest. So yeah, like I said, they published, US Gold published a lot of Sega and a lot of Capcom games. They tended to have all their Sega games in orange and all their Capcom games in a kind of purpley colour. So the first one is Line of Fire, which I don't think I've ever played, to be honest. Shadow Dancer, one of my favourite Mega Drive games of all time. This is nowhere near as good. Eastwat, another classic Mega Drive game. This is more like the arcade than the Mega Drive version though. But it's nowhere near as good in my opinion. Super Monaco Grand Prix. Again, more like the arcade version than the Mega Drive one. Not bad. Probably my favourite one is Crackdown. Bit of a hidden gem this, I really enjoyed this game. Now this one is shite. Turbo Outrun. I found it really frustrating back in the day. It was so slow, so jerky, and the sprite detection was atrocious. I remember buying that game, got it home, played it I think for a couple of hours and threw the discs at the wall. I did regret it afterwards, but I smashed the hell out of it. Black Tiger. Another Mega Drive favourite of mine was Forgotten Worlds. The Amiga version is not bad actually. Not bad at all. What can I say about this one? Another tier text conversion. Unfortunately, it's nothing like as playable as the Mega Drive version. It's quite slow. Sprites are very small. It's not enjoyable at all, really. Got decent reviews though, but I don't know what these people are on sometimes because it wasn't a very good conversion whatsoever. UN Squadron. Not a bad conversion. Bit jumpy. This was blinking hard. Ghouls and Ghosts. I think it's hard no matter what machine you play it on. The Amiga version was brutal. Things would just randomly appear out of nowhere and kill you. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. This is the action game. Again, quite a disappointment this one, because I did look forward to buying this one. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade again, but the graphic adventure. I think there's another variant of this in a bigger box. This is the smaller box variant. Emotion. I do have the sequel to this upstairs and I forgot to bring it down in a little tin, which is called Vaccine. Not a bad puzzly game. Italy 1990. For me, one of the most memorable World Cups. That's it for the US Gold games, next to the Virgin games. The first up I'll show you though is Xenon. I mean, Xenon isn't Virgin Games, but it's the only Melbourne house game I have. And Virgin Games, I'm pretty sure, bought these out sometime in the late 80s. They were rebranded Virgin Mastertronic, were they, at some point. But Xenon though, I had it on the Spectrum and I had it on the ST. The Amiga version is just as good. Ivan Iron Man Stewart's Super Off-Road, which is a really good conversion of an arcade game. Again, Virgin did get some arcade licenses as well. Another one being Golden Axe. Not a bad conversion. You excuse the sticker there. Quite a poor World Cup soccer game. It's Italia 1990. The best football game out at the time for me was Kickoff 2. Another decent conversion of an arcade game, Continental Circus. Not bad at all. Quite hard. Good fun though. Never really played this one. Viz, the game. Buster Gonads and his crew. How'd you do? Down there, Free the Escape. Again, I played this on the Spectrum. I never played it on the Amiga. This one was a really good arcade conversion. I was surprised how close it was to the arcade, to be honest. And it was Ninja Warriors. I played this before the arcade, and I played the arcade game on MAME, and I was surprised how good it was as a conversion. Right, the final set then of Virgin games starts off with Aladdin, which is probably the cream of the crop, to be honest. Absolutely a fantastic game. It favours very, very favourably amongst sort of against the console versions. Another point and click adventure, which I've not really played, to be honest, is KGB. I always remember this on a demo disc back in 1992. The Lion King, another really well made Disney game. Both these Disney games were actually on the Sega Mega Drive and Super Nintendo, I think. One of Rowan's flight simulators, Reach for the Skies. Again, nothing fantastic. Lure of the Temptress. Same guys behind Beneath a Still Sky. A very good graphic, it's very good point and click adventure, this one. It's got a really good introduction sequence. Dino Dini's Goal. Being a huge fan of Kickoff 2, I was really looking forward to this coming out. Came out about two or 3 years later. I think Dino Dini fell out with Anco and they decided to go with Virgin Games. And problem is, by the time this came out, though, Sensible Soccer just entered the fray. Still a good game though. Much more of a polished Kickoff 2, if you like. Motorhead. Again, quite a desirable game, this one. I got it for quite a reasonable price a while ago, about 20 quid I think, but it's a bit of a Golden Axe clone, I think. Never really played it. I'm sure Ash ate one before you. I've seen you play that, I think, on one of your gameplay videos. It looks quite good. My favourite RTS on the Amiga, the precursor to Command and Conquer. An absolutely fantastic game this is, Dune 2. Brilliant. Like I said, some absolutely fantastic Amiga titles there. Not the most known of the software developers or publishers, but they have some amazing games. My next video will be around my next full collection, or the next collection I'm aiming to get a full set for, which is Ocean Software. I'm only about 5 games away from it, and a few compilations. There's a couple of like mystery games there, which I don't think ever came out. But until next time, I'll see you then. Thank you for all the new subscribers, by the way. Absolutely fantastic. See you next time.